Today, we're joined by Mike Carson, the hacker, programmer, developer, who is using those skills to be an activist to create decentralization and change on the internet itself. We have some super geeky conversations. We try to make it so that anyone can listen and understand. There are new TLD opportunities, but also some real opportunity to impact change in the world. I hope you understand the show and enjoy it, and feel free. This one might have a lot of questions come up. If they do, just tweet them or post them, and Mike and I will be watching out and make sure you get some interesting answers. Enjoy the show.
FD was built by domain investors to increase your inquiries, sales, and profit. Forget spreadsheets and archived emails. Manage your entire investment portfolio in one place using a secure and completely confidential platform. Learn more at ft.com. That's EFTY, ft.com.
Hey, Sherpa Network. Thanks for joining us today. We are going to geek out with Mike Carson, founder of Park.io and celebrity extraordinaire in the domain world. What's going on, Mike? How you doing?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, well, you were on just the other day with Drew Rosner and Mark Levine, and we kind of touched on some pretty geeky, cool things you're doing that sound like they kind of might change the world. I don't think that's too much of an undersell. I mean, an oversell, but they're way too complicated for a quick touch on a panel. So let's get into all the dirty details, and I'm going to ask you a lot of questions from a perspective not quite as hacker savvy as yours. Sound good?
Yeah.
You up for a little teaching?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So, Mike, you are a hacker, and we were kind of talking about that and what it means to you. And I think the best way to say that is you're a creative, solutions-oriented developer or programmer who looks at stuff, tinkers, and finds different, better ways to do stuff. You think that's accurate?
Yeah. I mean, just, from my perspective, I just like programming because you can like create things, just out of like lines of code, and you can create these really cool things. So just I think the hacker mentality is kind of, figuring out how programs work and exploring new ways to do it and building things that are useful. And actually that kind of led me into this cypherpunk stuff, the cypherpunk thing, which I really love. It's this idea that, it's kind of like I heard one investor talking about Bitcoin. He's like, this really is revenge of the nerds. And it's like, I mean, it's cool because, when you want to change something, like if you wanted to change the way something was done, like with Bitcoin, they want, the monetary system, some people are like, how can you just print all this money like that? That's going to screw up the value of money. And like, why does the government control the money? And so like to change that one way to change that is like to try to vote, to try to, get out and sign petitions and stuff like that. And maybe that does work sometimes, but it can take a lot of money. It can take a lot of time. Sometimes it doesn't even work because of, reasons outside of your control. So another way to do it is the hacker way is like with code.
Yeah, it's an activism.
Yeah. Kind of like, hacker activism type of thing. But what's cool is like theoretically, who knows? So Bitcoin was created by Satoshi Nakamoto, but that's an anonymous person. They don't know who that is, but
or
so it could
people.
Yeah, it could be a group of people, but theoretically it could be one person who wrote some code, which is like completely, changing the financial system. It's worth, hundreds of billions of dollars now. And it's like really getting governments to like think about this, because it's taking control away from governments and like huge institutions, lots of people with money and power. It's like changing all that. And it could have been one guy at a computer who so it's cool that that's a possibility, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's really special, the way that you see it. It is an activism for political change, social change, and decentralization is essential to that, because it gives more power, even as simple as Twitter, gives everyone a voice.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to talk about this, and especially within that context with the foundation of why you're doing this, and what other people can change the world from their parents' basement. Not that you're in your parents' basement, but that's like the typical image, right? All right. You think we should start out with handshake.org and what it is real quick before we get into your launch of gateway.io, what that is and what that means for change. But first, we need this much of geek talk on what is Handshake in the first place. Handshake is not something that you developed or created, although you've contributed code to it. It is a decentralized protocol. Go, your turn.
Yeah, it's very similar to Bitcoin in that there's like no company that owns it, and it's like anybody can contribute, anybody has a say, and it's actually really similar to Bitcoin because it was even like a lot of the code is the same. It was forked, so it's very similar to Bitcoin, except it adds this extra. It's built specifically for DNS, it's like for naming, and it's built around that stuff. So
okay. So it's not money at all like Bitcoin, but it has the same structure and code of decentralization. It's for DNS and SSLs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, certificates.
And that, I believe, that's the part that on our last talk, Drew Rosner was like, hey, what's going on with the domain names and is there an issue there? Is that right?
I forget.
Okay, I think that's right. I don't know. Or Drew will jump in and give us an opinion at some point. But not that that's a focus today, but I just wanted to put that in the appropriate slot. What the fork is forking?
Well, it's like using most of the code that's there. Like forking is like, so all the code is stored in this thing called a code repository where people can like submit code changes, and there's an organized way it's basically a way to track changes in code and collaborate around code. And so a fork is like you take all the code that's there, you copy it pretty much, and then you change it to however you want. So that's kind of how this Handshake was done with Bitcoin. It takes Bitcoin, changes some things, but it's mostly, a lot of it's the same as Bitcoin. So it has a coin. There has a Handshake coin, which is used to get domains and do transactions and stuff on the Handshake blockchain.
Okay, and why? Is that because then it can control the connection between the two? Why it only accepts Handshake coin?
Yeah. It's just it's the coin that's used for everything that's done on the blockchain. So you just need it to, like, if you want to change the DNS, or if you want to bid in an auction, or you can send coins to another person too. So yeah, it's used. It's the thing that's used to do everything.
Okay, and can you use Handshake coin elsewhere for other things, or you can exclusively use it for Handshake transactions?
Yeah, it's mostly used for Handshake transactions. I think you can you can trade like Bitcoin for Handshake and stuff like that on exchanges, and you might even be able to do that with like automatically. I think you can do that. like automatically without even an exchange. But yeah, it's designed to be used on the thing. It's like Bitcoin. Bitcoin is used on the Bitcoin blockchain, and handshake coins are used on the handshake blockchain.
Gotcha. Okay. So what else do we need to know about handshake before we go over to gateway?
So yeah, handshake was designed because there's some issues. Well, so yeah, there's so much to talk about. It's hard to like focus on one thing and like to figure out where to start. But so yeah, domains are a digital asset. So I guess I'll start there. Like domains are a digital asset. Like you can't like order a domain in the mail and it comes, to your door or something like that. So it's like all done online. So, and right now it's very centralized. It's all managed by like ICANN, or there's a lot of people in the middle that can control things. There's registrars, registries, ICANN. So, when you buy a domain, it's not yours. You're renting it, and it can even be taken away at any time, pretty much. So, that there's a lot of issues with that. It's like that's the same with Bitcoin. It's is it your money if it's in the bank? Like I bought a house and I wanted to pay for the house, with my money in the bank, but had to get all this approval, all these different things. And it's like,
I think you didn't quite mean that. I think you meant it's the same with like cash and US dollars and that kind of currency. And that's what Bitcoin is the solution for. Is that what you meant? Okay.
Yeah. And so this is the solution for all these issues with domain names, like there's a lot of good things that can happen when it's decentralized and you can actually own your own domain name, and you can own it anonymously. Nobody, so that solves a lot of issues. When it's centralized, it's more, it can be, people with bad intents can do things with it, or people, who have different opinions than yours can do, change what they do with it. Yeah. So with handshake, you can, own it yourself. It's less risky. It's less like with the current way that the domain system's set up, there's points of attack, like there's like certain number of root servers that can be attacked. And if it could bring down the whole, domain name system if they're attacked in the right way. But when it's decentralized, you can't attack them all. It's like anybody can run a node in their on their computer.
Who developed handshake? Is it like Bitcoin that nobody knows who developed it and it's just kind of out there?
No, they know it was designed. The white paper was written, and a lot of the code was written by a couple of guys. One of them was one of the people who created the Lightning Network on Bitcoin, and a lot of it. There was a company, Purse.io, that they were a Bitcoin company, cryptocurrency company, and they had a lot of developers who they paid to work on it full time. Okay. But Purse.io, they since I think their company shut down, and the developers who were working on it, they were hired by some other people, but they're still working on it full time, a lot of them.
Okay, cool. So this is really the first attempt at a decentralized DNS, and who knows, is it the first attempt?
No.
I love seeing your brain just go.
I feel like it's not going this morning. I don't know. It's hard in the morning. But
disclaimer, we are filming very early in the morning.
But yeah, there's been other attempts. Like there was actually the first, I think it was the first fork of Bitcoin really early on, was called Namecoin.
Okay.
So that, I think that just goes to show that like this is something people realize. This is like an obvious solution for the blockchain. Like domains should be on the on a blockchain. It's like but there was Namecoin, and they were also like a fork of Bitcoin and did things very similar. But I think Handshake did a lot of things smart. They learned from the mistakes of Namecoin. Namecoin didn't really work out. I think they had trouble with distribution, like of names, because it was so cheap to get a name. Like some people, like you could just squat on like all the great names and just keep them forever. And so I think it didn't give a lot of incentive for new people to come on. So yeah, there are some issues with that. There's another one. There's one going on now, ENS, Ethereum Naming Service. And there's also Unstoppable Domains is another one that's doing it. But in my opinion, like they're doing a few things that are not ideal. And I think Handshake gets a lot of the things right. Like I think they really thought through this, and they're getting a lot of things right. And I'm really excited about all the possibilities it opens up.
It's great to hear your voice and see your face change at being excited, Mike.
Yeah.
I have a question about the SSL aspect and the anonymity, and I just don't get it. Like my understanding of SSLs is that you prove you are who you say you are. That if you have the word bank in your domain name, you're really the bank you say you are. So I don't understand how that matches up with anonymity. And that's not the focus, obviously, of our conversation, but I really want to know.
Well, I'm not an expert on this thing, but SSL, so SSL is like encryption for web traffic. So, it encrypts traffic. So like when you go to a website and you see that little lock symbol, that means it's encrypted. And so like if you send your password and stuff over there, it's encrypted, and people who are viewing traffic on the network can't see your password in plain text.
Okay. And so I want to say that's like on the that is kind of on like a handshakey end of what sending and receiving are equal. But on the consumer end, it's about verification. Like I shouldn't give my password if you're not really my bank. That's the part that I'm worried about. Is that an aspect of this or no? Yeah,
well, so the way that it's encrypted is with a certificate and like a key and so there's a certificate. And the way that it works now is that there's these like certificate authorities who are like designated to like sign certificates for people. So they have to verify you own the domain name. So like, your bank, wellsfargo.com or whatever, in order for them to sign your SSL certificate to use on your website, they have to verify you have control of that domain name. So
right, but they also have to verify that you really are that bank. So like... I think...
for
certain levels, so there are different levels of certificates. So like if you have the word bank, a CA can't give that certificate without verifying that you are the bank you say you are. But if you're just saying like, I own MikeCarson.com and I'm accepting password subscriptions and money, then you can do that as long as you verify you own the domain. So maybe it's really that level of certificate?
I think it's what Handshake does is it says there's a security risk that there's these certificate authorities, because if one of them's compromised, you could create these certificates. So like I could create a certificate for wellsfargo.com and I could hack and put my SSL certificate on the website, and then I could decrypt all the traffic, so there's like, I don't know how many, there's like at least hundreds, maybe thousands of certificate authorities. So if one of them is hacked, I could create SSL certificates for any domain I wanted and maybe, see encrypted traffic. So what Handshake does is says that's, a security risk, and it's centralized. and yeah, it's a bad security risk. And so there's ways to do it where you can create the certificate and sign it yourself, and then you can verify that there's actually an existing system, DNS system, to do this, where you don't need a certificate authority. There's
like you can have a self-signed cert.
Yeah, you can have a self-signed certificate, and you can prove that it's your certificate with DNS. Like it's called DANE, DANE, and so Handshake does that. A lot of browsers don't support it though yet, so that's an issue. But
okay.
Yeah, Handshake does it kind of in a decentralized way, so you don't have to rely on these certificate authorities.
Cool. All right. Sorry for the tangent. Very interesting, though. So I think we're ready for gateway.io.
Yeah, okay. So Gateway. So let me just say that we partnered with, so Park.io partnered with Namebase.io, which is like the biggest exchange for Handshake coins and names. And also James Stevens, the ex-CTO of the .io registry, who ran it for like 10 years. He's working with us. And so we created this registry operator for Handshake TLDs. So if you own a Handshake TLD, you can sell domains on that through this registry operator system, which is like EPP. It's running EPP. It's all the standard domain stuff. So it's using, you don't even have to know about Handshake really, except that you're selling Handshake TLDs. But it runs exactly the same way as any other registry runs, like for example, .io. So registrars can hook into that and sell domains. And so we created gateway.io as a way, it's a registrar to buy domains on some of these Handshake TLDs.
So traditionally, if you want to become a registrar, there's like $25,000 fee and an application process. And there's some people believe that it's going to be like a liquor license, where at some point there will only be a certain number of registrars allowed. But you are completely outside of this system and just created both the TLDs. Well, you didn't. Handshake creates the TLDs, and you created a registrar? ?
Yeah. So to become an ICANN accredited registrar, you have to do all this application process, provide all these documents, show you have this much balance in your bank account, do all these things, and also pay regularly fees and application fees and all.
But that's to be a registrar of certain TLDs, like GoDaddy is a registrar, and they're selling .com domains. That's what they had to go through to get to that process. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And we have, and Park.io has some ICANN accredited registrars too. But so but the thing is, you don't need to be ICANN accredited for some existing TLDs like .ai. You don't need to be ICANN accredited. You could just reach out to the .ai registry and asked to become a registrar, and I don't know the exact process, but I don't think you have to be ICANN accredited. And for some other ccTLDs, you don't have to be either, like .to, I think, and .ly. But even like .cc and .tv, you don't have to be.
Okay, so ccTLDs, the country code TLDs, may go through a different process. I never knew that.
Yeah. So gateway.io is a registrar. You don't need to be ICANN accredited to sell Handshake domains on this registry operators. This registries that we have launched. You don't need to be ICANN accredited.
And is this the only registry for Handshake TLDs or no?
It's currently the only EPP registry for Handshake domains.
Okay. I'm so proud of you. I love how you're like, it's the only one.
Thanks. Yeah.
I really want to meet your wife. I want to ask her like a million questions about you. Like, tell me a time Mike was really excited. Has he ever jumped up and down? Maybe I want to meet your mom too.
But the cool thing is we're getting other registrars signed up. So 101 Domain is planning to onboard as a reseller, and actually we just signed up Encirca, a registrar, so they're going to be using the system to sell handshake domains. So it's cool. It's cool to see other registrars, and I think it's what's interesting to them is like at first they're like, oh, do I have, because they know ENS and some of these other naming systems on the blockchain. They're like, oh, we have to manage users' keys, and it's like they're expecting a lot of work to integrate it. But then when we tell them, no, it's EPP, it's exactly the same as any other integrating other EPP like TLDs on your system, they're like, oh wow, so it's a lot easier, a lot faster to get it set up.
Okay, secretly, I don't really know what EPP is. I've been using the term EPP for 15 years, and I have no clue what it is. This is my context, right? When you need an authorization code to move a domain from one registrar to another, it can be called an authorization code, a secret code. It's got like 20 names, but the real name is an EPP code. That's it. Yeah. That's the entirety of my knowledge, and I'm kind of knowledgeable about domains and transfers.
Yeah, it's just a protocol that's the standard protocol for managing domain names. So it's kind of like HTML. You know, HTML is what everybody uses to view web pages, like browsers. Like HTML is what you have to send it in a certain format with certain tags and stuff like that. And so EPP is pretty much the same way. Like if you want to create a domain or like renew a domain, you have to send it in a certain way with certain tags and
okay.
Like that.
So it's the code to create a domain, to renew a domain, to transfer a domain, to allocate a domain, to update zone files.
Server. Yeah, the name servers and
interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I didn't even realize I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Gateway.io launched about a week ago. It's the new registrar, currently the only registrar with that runs on EPP. And what does it do? What can we do with it? Why is this crazy exciting? And how do we access it like today?
Yeah, you can go to gateway.io and register domains right now. So with Handshake, it opens up the TLD space. So like domainers know how there's these new GTLDs like .xyz and stuff like that. But it's been really restricted. Like you have to pay a lot of money. It takes a lot of time, to get a TLD. But with Handshake, they're like, we're going to open this all up. So they opened it up, and so we're going to be selling a lot of TLDs, domains under a lot of TLDs there. But currently we started with two, .js and .txt.
Okay, can I back up for a sec?
Yeah.
Just for the Sherpa network to understand. So a bunch of years ago, I don't know how many, and space was opened up instead of just like .com.org, and then there are these country TLDs like .tv for some random island and .ly, things like that, right? Then something was opened up where people could apply. It cost tons and tons of money, and sometimes multiple people applied and had to bid against each other, and finally people got allocated like, I have the .xyz registrar, I have the .nyc registrar, I have the .green registrar, and then you can buy those wherever. But what you're talking about through handshake.org is that instead of going through this giant application process and bidding process and whatever, this is just boom, it's done, it's created. And currently, the two that you're selling are .txt and .js. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there is a little bit of a process when you want to get a TLD on Handshake. There's an auction that you have to go through. You have to. There's a bidding process, and names are not all available at once. So you have to wait until they become available, and then you can bid on them. And
how do they become available?
There's a formula. So first of all the existing TLDs are in Handshake. So like .com, I've been running a Handshake resolver for months, and I can view the internet and do everything as normal. So like I can go to all the other TLDs like .xy, abc.xyz, any of those I can go to as normal. And then they also reserved the Alexa top 100,000 names. So the owners of those names can claim them through a process, like it's all code. Like they just verify it with DNSSEC, I think, and then they can claim their name. So they reserved all that. So they tried really hard to play fair, to like grandfather in the existing system and to make sure everybody, who was in the existing system was brought over. So, and then after that, for the available names after that, they release them over span of a year. And there's a formula that they do that by. It's like they take the hash of the name. So like .txt, take the hash of that, and then you do modulus 52, and that gives you the week that it'll be released out of the 52 weeks. So yeah, certain names are released over. They're released over.
The modula, yeah, that's okay.
Well, it's like this.
Don't go there.
So basically, they're released over a year, which I think is smart because Namecoin. That's a problem about Namecoin. It happened with Namecoin is they released everything at once, and so people could just squat all over it, and then it didn't. There wasn't a lot of incentive. It caused a lot of problems with distribution. So I think this is really smart because the way that the auctions are set up plus the distribution over the year, it's hard to get. You can't. One person can't squat all over all the names, and I think it distributes them a lot better. So I think that was a really smart decision that they did.
That's cool. Okay. So who gets the money from these auctions?
Good question. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Did you want?
I was going to guess an answer.
Yeah. What's your guess?
Gateway.io?
No, because this is all done on the handshake blockchain. So it's not through gateway.io. Like getting a TLD is done. Like if you wanted to get .Sherpa, I don't know if that is that might be reserved by the Alexa top 100,000. I'm not sure if
you're like or amazing.
But let me check actually.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm emailing Drew. Hey, Drew. Bye.
That was reserved with it. So there must be like Sherpa.com or Sherpa.net or something that gets a lot of traffics in the Alexa top 100,000. But if they don't claim it within 2 years, I think, or 4 years, I think 4 years, then you can bid on it and open the auction process. But it's these auctions are built into the blockchain, into the protocol, so that whoever wins the auction, the amount that they win it for is burned. It's just burned. Nobody gets it. And the coins are actually gone. They're locked up and gone, so they can't be used anymore.
Wow, that is super geeky. Okay, cool. That's super cool. Okay, so what do we know next? Go ahead. What do you think?
Well, I think that's another really smart thing is that nobody gets that money. Like nobody's trying to profit off of the auction. Like I think, some other places, some other people who have tried to attempt to do naming systems like this, like they're making money off of the names that they sell. But so I think this was a really smart way. It's like, they're not trying to make money. Like they're focused on solving the problem. And I think it works out. And
it keeps that incentive there. This is activism right there. Huge change. Cause I love how, Drew is always saying, buy VeriSign stock. Like they're making a killing.
Yeah.
So this is different. Okay. So gateway.io, why did you start with .js, which I assume is JavaScript, and .txt?
Yeah, we started with those because, we wanted to start small, like as a pilot thing, just to make sure we work out any of the issues before we start doing more and more. But also, it's kind of like a hacker, these names like .js, JavaScript. There's a lot of programmers who doing JavaScript, and .txt is like text files. So we thought we would go. our hope was that this, letting people know, it might get developers interested in Handshake. Basically, that's what it is. It's like we thought, developers might be interested to get their .txt or .js site and then build on it, and then they might then become interested in Handshake. So that's why we started with those.
Okay, interesting. So what else is Gateway currently doing or planning to do? Not just in terms of TLDs, but anything.
Well, Gateway.io, we kind of just created as a registrar so that people could buy and sell these domains on the Handshake TLDs. But other registrars are doing that now, like in Circa, and we're planning to sign up some others. But to me, the really interesting thing is opening up this TLD space and having this registry operator on the Handshake. So it's integrating Handshake TLDs into the existing like domain industry type things. And I'm interested to see where it all goes. I mean, I think, there's definitely a lot of work that has to be done. It's still really early. There's definitely some issues to work out, but Rome wasn't built in a day, right? And I think once it starts, I believe it'll happen because, to me, it's just obvious that this is at least 10 times better than the existing way things are done. And so I think it'll eventually happen. It'll be cool to see what impact that has on the internet. But I got distracted. So Gateway.io. Mostly. So Gateway.io will be selling all the Handshake TLDs that become available. So you can check there to see. I'm excited to also get other registrars on board too.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Now, you mentioned a Handshake resolver earlier.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
Yeah, so in order to view Handshake domains, you have to use a Handshake resolver. And the good thing is that when you use a Handshake resolver, you don't lose you don't lose anything. You just gain the ability to view all these Handshake domains. You can still go to the internet as normal. But to do it, it's a little tricky now. It takes a little it's a little tricky to do it. You can either run a Handshake node, and as a resolver and do it that way, but that's definitely the advanced way to do it. Probably the easiest way is there's a company called nextdns.io, and they're one of the few trusted resolvers for Firefox, and so they have a setting where you can just press a button and it'll resolve Handshake domains. So if you follow nextdns.io instructions about how to use it as your resolver, you can just click a button and
and it's only in Firefox?
No, it's you can use it for anything, for everything. But Firefox uses nextdns.io as one of the few trusted resolvers that they have, and like built into their system.
Okay. So you going to walk me through doing it on my Mac?
Sure.
All right. Let's see here. I'm going to share my screen for you, but mostly for our listeners. Where do I go? Into Chrome? Or let's start there.
Yeah, Chrome.
No, I'll just go into I'll share my desktop.
Okay.
And then we'll see. All right.
Okay. Yeah. So if you go to nextdns.io.
Nextdns.io.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just click there.
Try it now for free. Okay. Sign up.
I don't even know if you have to sign up. Actually, let's see. So yeah, if you click on settings, that tab in the middle.
Okay, so up top, there are a bunch of tabs. Click on the settings tab.
And then scroll down. Now see Handshake right there? Just click that so it's on.
Okay, so resolve Handshake domains.
Okay, good. So now, yeah, see, this is pretty easy, right? So now go back. You didn't even have to sign up. That's what's cool about it.
Okay.
So now if you scroll back up and then click on setup, way on the tab on the other side.
Okay, so now I switch to a different tab. I don't even save it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, and see where it says under the linked IP section, it's do you see DNS servers?
DNS servers. It has 2 DNS servers that are almost the same.
So you just use those to change your DNS.
So where do I change my DNS?
So if you click, if you go to System Preferences on your Mac, that's it. And then go to Network. See the network.
Sorry, my dog. I'm about to. Network. Okay.
And then Advanced. If you click on the Advanced button at the bottom.
Okay.
And then DNS. Okay, you have a lot there. So I don't want to mess up your current configuration, but what you would do is...
Oh, shoot. Yeah, we're in the middle of filming. That disconnected us. But
yeah.
this is where we go. And then I would add this?
Well, under the DNS servers thing, you would just add those DNS servers that are on next DNS. So you hit
the plus button over on the right, add click OK, and it'll add it over to the left?
The way I do is hit the plus on the left side over there. On the left, hit the plus on the left bottom.
Oh, I think, let me check. Hold on, I'm going to cancel it, and then we'll go back. I think that's what I did. So then DNS, then...
Yeah, plus
no, you're right. It's not what I did. So then you would add it there and click OK.
Yeah, you would add them both there and click OK, and then that's it. Then you can...
That's it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, then you can view all handshake domains.
Okay, so then I could see, give me a handshake. Well, no, because I can't. Well, no, give me a handshake domain, and I can't see it, and you can. One that currently exists, like something .js or whatever.
If you go to handshake.txt.
And what I get is a Google search, and basically you entered something that's not real. And then...
But see at the top where it says, did you mean to go to HTTP? So if you click that, see it can't be found. So you can't resolve it. But...
I don't know what just happened. Okay.
But that would resolve if you had set the next DNS name servers in your system. You'd be able to see handshake. I have it set to redirect to the handshake white paper. So.
Oh, cool. All right. That's pretty neat. So if anybody really wants to geek out, they can go there.
Yeah.
Or they can just test their settings and then not read it because it's too hard.
But yeah, the cool thing is you don't lose anything. If you change that, you don't really lose anything. You just gain the ability to view all these other things.
And there's no security concern to do that?
No, I mean...
and that is the DNS. That's the decentralized DNS?
Yeah, that's pointing to next DNS name server resolvers that are using the blockchain, like using the handshake blockchain to resolve that. Like I run a handshake node on my computer, and then I just point, instead of using those, changing the name server address to the next DNS ones, I just change it to my computer, like 127.0.0.1. And that just points to my computer. So I just, and it resolves directly from the blockchain then, like that.
Okay. And how come is that an IPv4?
I guess so, yeah.
I feel like I have a question around that IPv4, not 6, but I also feel like I'm not technical enough to frame the question. But somehow I thought 6.
I don't know. I don't know that much about that stuff either. So.
All right. Well, maybe somebody else does, and we'll tweet us or reply, be like, this is what you should be looking at or asking. But I know there's something there. All right, cool. What else do we need to know, Mike?
I mean, I guess, the two main issues that we're working on right now is, I think it's a lot of browser support issues. Like, it would be nice if a browser could just support this and you didn't have to change the settings. So once that happens, that'll be really helpful. And then also if a browser can also do this SSL thing.
How do you get browser support?
Well, you can, a lot of this code, like for Firefox and stuff, is open source. So you could change the code and do a pull request to them and talk to them and see, and try to get them, see if they'll get, if they'll merge it into their code or if they have interest to do that.
Firefox seems like the most open browser for something like that, right? Like the starting point.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So yeah, once those two things, I mean, those are the things I think, we're working to resolve. But once those two things are done, then it's like, why wouldn't you why not resolve handshake? Because you get all this extra stuff and you don't lose anything.
Huh.
And I think what's cool is that when opening up this TLD space, I mean, I think I talked about this before, but opening up the TLD space, it's not like I was interested in handshake just because I thought DNS should be on the blockchain, and but once I realized handshake was also opening up the TLD space, I realized that was such a really smart move, and it's going to lead to a lot of, to me, it's one of the most exciting things about it. I think it'll lead to a lot of innovation and freedom, and it'll just be so cool to see what happens when anybody can get anybody can get their own TLD, and what will they do with it? And so domains under the TLD, they can just be, it's just it's free. You can create free endless domains under your TLD. So it opens up a lot of different things that you can do that you wouldn't be able to do before, with a TLD, because of the cost and everything that was involved to create a TLD. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. And when you say that, I know too, like, what about if ICANN issues a new TLD that you guys have already issued? Is there any communication between there, or what will happen there?
Yeah, I mean, that's bound to happen. And I think it actually it already just happened with I think it's Japanese.Amazon, like the characters for that, that somebody got it on handshake on an auction, but it launched after the ICANN version launched after that. And so they do conflict now, but so that's, if you're using a handshake resolver, it'll go to the handshake one first. And
what do you do about that? Or is that something you guys are still figuring out?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's going to be that big of an issue, because I don't think ICANN's rolling these out a lot quickly. I think it's going to, I think they roll them out every, I don't know how many years or something. So it doesn't seem like it's going to be a huge issue. Maybe it'll happen with a couple TLDs. But I think, it'll be something, either you'll switch, like if you want to use one, you switch to the other, or it won't be an issue because they won't build on one and you don't care to use that one, or it could be handled with the resolvers too. Like the resolvers themselves could determine how they do it. So yeah, I don't know how exactly it'll be resolved, but I don't see it as one of the bigger issues at first. Maybe I think it'll be resolved in time, by the time we get to we need to figure it out.
Okay. All right. Very nice. So how do you think the internet is going to be impacted by this? I mean, besides what you've already said about the accessibility, the freedom, the cost, any other thoughts about it? Is there an increase in security? Is there a change? I don't know. I guess I'm trying to circle back to the beginning of our conversation with the activism and the change, what other change is going to be, or what other parts of the internet are going to be impacted by this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that some people talk about the early days of the internet, how it was it was really creative, and there's a lot of more variety. And now, some people, it seems like it's more like, there's a few big companies that are kind of like running the internet. And what I'm hoping, what I think will happen is that this will open it up and bring it back, so that people, there'll be a lot more creativity, on TLDs, and it'll opening up the TLD space. To me, it feels like just opening, just kind of completely opening it up. Right now the TLDs are owned by these big companies, and you get to open it up and give it to the people. So all this like space is on the internet is suddenly going to be owned by people. People can own it, and they can do whatever they want on it, and it can't be taken away from them.
Huh. Okay. So like Elon Musk tweeted earlier this week, Amazon's a monopoly and should be broken up. And not that we're taking any stance on that statement, but it sounds like that kind of thought process or concern is the kind of thing that this is addressing or creating an activism around.
Yeah. And like how, in some countries, they don't let you go to certain websites and things like that. So like, it's a way that, it takes the control away from the powers that be now, that may not necessarily have the interest of some people, and it gives, and it allows them to have a place, and also, but yeah, besides the freedom, the creativity, and like innovation and all the other great stuff that I think is going to come out of this, the security too. The security aspect is big because it spreads it out. Like, you can't attack the internet. The DNS system will be hard to attack because anybody can run a node. You can't. It's like Bitcoin can't. It's really hard to attack compared to like one bank because it's not centralized. Like, it's so. And also these, the SSL. So like, that's another security aspect too. Like right now, if you attack just one certificate authority, you could compromise the security of the internet. And so this does that too. So I think, security and also freedom and innovation.
Super exciting. I'm really, really glad that we had a more in-depth conversation because it was difficult to understand off the cuff. All I could really understand before was just that it was important and a big deal. So this is really neat. And it's really neat, Mike, all that you do for the community, for the domain community, for the internet community. You're a great activist. So the world will be different for your kids and for mine because of it. So
cool. Yeah. Cheers. For me, it's just interesting and fun. Like, I'm just happy to have something fun and interesting to work on. Like, I just feel lucky that I have that. But I think thanks for doing the show. I think it was a good idea to like actually share the screen and show how easy it is to switch. I think that was a good idea.
Yeah, that was really cool. Now you have your fun and interesting face. I want to make a meme of Mike Carson excited, Mike Carson fun, Mike Carson. You're a brilliant guy, Mike, and really cool.
The same face for all those. That'll be
yeah, pretty much. Anything you want to give a shout out to before we sign off?
No. If anybody has any questions, wants some help like resolving names, or wants to know more, or has any questions about anything, just feel free to reach out. Mike@park.io.
You're a sport. Shout out to what's going on at park.io. I know you said it last time, but you have a bunch of new TLDs on there. Pretty sweet.
Yeah, we're adding more and more. We added .co, which is something that a lot of users wanted for a long time, and it's so that's good.
That's awesome. And is Park.io all expired names, registry drops?
It's all expired names that are caught on the drop. Yeah.
Sweet. Just throwing that out there. All right, Mike. Thank you for all your time so early in the morning. We'll see you next time.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.